So Jeff Sessions told the Senate Intelligence Committee today that he was appalled at the notion that he would have any level of collusion with Russia. And actually, his quote was that he would be involved in collusion with the Russian government was, quote, an appalling and detestable lie. He repeated that it would be inappropriate for him to discuss private conversations with the president and then discuss it with him and before the Senate, no matter how relevant those conversations may be. Sessions discussed his recusal. 3 months ago, he recused himself from Russia related inquiries, and he essentially stonewalled the entire time. Nothing really substantive came out of this hearing, because as an attorney who was trying to protect himself and trying to protect the Trump administration, he was able to stonewall the entire time. He said, quote, I am protecting the right of the president to assert it, executive privilege if he so chooses. So he's trying to preemptively assert executive privilege on behalf of the president before the president himself asserts executive privilege. The ACLU actually questions whether or not he can legally do this, but he was able to get away with it in this session in this hearing, because the chairman, and this is a committee that's led up by Republicans, they were not going to press him any more than they had to, and they were not going to treat him as other Republicans have treated Democratic testimonies or testimonies from FBI agents in times past. They were not going to grill him, the Republican Party who were in charge. There were a few heated exchanges, two in particular, between Senator Ron Wyden and Jeff Sessions, and then Senator Kamala Harris and Jeff Sessions. Let's take a listen into the first one from Ron Wyden.
General Sessions, respectfully, you're not answering the question.
Well, what is the question?
The question is, Mr. Comey said that there were matters with respect to the recusal that were problematic and he couldn't talk about them. What are they?
Why don't you tell me? There are none, Senator Wyden. There are none. I can tell you that for absolute certainty. This is a secret innuendo being leaked out there about me, and I don't appreciate it. And I've tried to give my best and truthful answers to any committee I've appeared before, and it's really people are suggesting through innuendo that I have been not honest about matters, and I've tried to be honest.
Technically, he has not been honest. Right. So he was not honest before and forthcoming before, when he, in many regards, perjured himself in the previous testimony that he gave before the Senate. And in that example, it is a perfect example of a politician being able to get away with something that the average citizen could not get away with. So his indignant positioning and posturing here with Senator Ron Wyden is disingenuous at best, because he has been deceiving them. He has been deceptive. Everything that he said today was coddled in caveats to cover his behind, so that if something comes out later on, he could say, well, I didn't lie. All I did was say to the best of my knowledge. And I didn't lie. I can't recall. I couldn't recollect what actually happened. And so over and over and over again, he used these weasel terms to give him a position, or give him the ability to get out of actually perjuring himself if something came out in the future. And this is what Senator Kamala Harris actually pointed out in her testy exchange with Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Let's listen to that.
Did you have any communication with any Russian businessmen or any Russian nationals?
I don't believe I had any conversation with Russian businessmen or Russian nationals.
Are you aware of
Although
any communications?
A lot of people were at the convention. It's conceivable that somebody
Sir,
came
I
up to me.
have just a few.
Well, you let me qualify it. If I don't qualify it, you'll accuse me of lying. So I need to be correct as best I can.
I do want you to be honest.
And I'm not able to be rushed this fast. It makes me nervous.
So he's nervous dealing with Senator Kamala Harris because she's asking pressing questions. But again, this is Jeff Sessions using weasel terms to wiggle his way out of the reality of not so much the reality at this point, but the possibility that he had conversations, inappropriate conversations, or conversations that he did not divulge. And if we could take a step back to the overarching theme about this, a lot of times it's quite possible that the conversations that he had and anyone in the Trump administration had could have been rather innocuous. But it's this doubling down of denial that makes it not only suspicious, but also puts them in a position where they may have perjured themselves or, in Donald Trump's case, have committed obstruction of justice. And this is where we are. Again, we've said this time and time again. It may not even be the actual incident for which they're being investigated that actually brings them down. It could very well be the fact that they are trying their best to cover up something that could very well be innocuous. But then you have to ask yourself the question, if they're covering up and they're going through all of these contortions to not answer questions directly, it's not always the case that where there's smoke, there's fire. But in this case, they're sabotaging themselves. When if it was really nothing, they should be able to disclose that very concretely and assert it very affirmatively without having to consistently use weasel words to get himself out of any potential conflict in the future or any potential evidence in the future that suggests that Jeff Sessions, once again, has perjured himself under oath. Well, keep an eye. There's really nothing so significant that came out of it other than the fact that he may not have been forthcoming, particularly with regards to the meeting, the alleged meeting at the Mayflower Hotel. He's saying to the best of his knowledge, he did not have any meetings with the Russians there. And it appears that we'll see whether or not that is the case. But even if it is the case that he had the meeting there, we see that he's used the perfect language, and he was allowed to use the perfect language to weasel himself out of potentially perjuring himself before the testimony, before the Senate committee.